good people? You are now listening to another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth. Good to be back in the booth. But we're going to talk about some goings on in the world of baseball, and then I'm going to recap my trip at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. So first off, we're going to get into the standings. So in the National League, not much has changed. The top dogs are still the top dogs. Phillies are holding it down in the NL East with a record of 86 and 58. The Dodgers are also had the same record of 86 and 58, being the top dogs in the NL West, and the Brew Crew holding it down basically since the beginning of the season in NL Central with a record of 82 and 61. However, it's 18 games left, and the wild card race it's a wild one in the National League. Of course, you got the Padres and the D-backs. They've been the two hottest teams in the league since the All-Star break. But don't look now, but the Mets are hot on their heels. They're red hot, and they're only a game behind the D-backs for the second wild card spot. And MVP talk, I mean, look, we could talk about Shohei Ohtani, but you can't deny that Francisco Lindor isn't making a case for winning NL MVP. And then in the American League, New York Yankees still atop the AL East with a record of 83 and 61. The Cleveland Guardians still in first place with a record of 82 and 62, and those damn Houston Astros, they're atop the AL West with a record of 77 and 66. And then in the wild card scenario, you got the Birds of Baltimore in holding it down for the first wild card spot, and the Kansas City Royals got the second wild card spot right now with a 2.5 game lead above the team that's right below them in their division, the Minnesota Twins. So again, 18 games left. Anything can happen in that amount of time. And while we're on the talk of NL MVP, got to talk about Shohei Ohtani possibly being the first member of the 50-50 club. The 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases in the same season. He's currently sitting at 46 home runs and 47 stolen bases. So I hope he breaks that milestone, because I think that would be super cool to see something like that happen. I mean, the man I'm out of superlatives for Shohei Ohtani. He's a man among boys. And the fact that he's doing all this, while basically mending his elbow from getting back on the mend from Tommy John surgery, that's an amazing feat in itself. And speaking of Tommy John surgery, I got to take it to my squad, the beloved Texas Rangers. And one of their top pitching prospects is a guy from Vanderbilt, a pitcher by the name of Kumar Rocker, who was the Rangers' first round pick, who's the third overall pick in the 2022 MLB draft. He was one of my favorite players to watch in college. Shout out to the Black Aces. And he ended up having to get Tommy John surgery in 2022, and he missed the entire 2023 season. Well, he's back on the mound. He made his first appearance back in August for the AA squad, the Frisco Rough Riders, and it was like there was no rust, just complete dominance in AA. And the more they slowly increased his workload, and the dominance did not die down, so much that he got promoted to AAA and continued his dominance there. And then the Rangers were like, you know what? He's been so impressive since coming back, and let's give him a shot. So he got a September call up, and he's going to make his major league debut taking the mound on Thursday night against the Seattle Mariners. So I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to see what he's going to do on a major league level. Him and his fellow Vandy boy Jack Leiter, who was the Rangers' first round pick in 2023, he got called up to the Rangers back in August. So we're going to, it's cool to see the Vandy boys sticking together, and hopefully they can keep that Commodore mojo and continue that into their major league careers, because the future is bright for both of those arms. Now, talking about the home team, my Charleston Riverdogs, they're on a quest for their fourth straight Carolina League title. At the time of this recording, game one of the first round of the Southern Division of the Carolina League. Their matchup is against the Kannapolis Cannonballers. And the way they do their format in the Carolina League is they do their first round matchup as a best of 3 series, and then the 2 teams that emerge from the Northern Division, or the Southern Division and the Northern Division, which are the Fredericksburg Nationals, they're facing the Carolina Mudcats. So those 4 teams, they're going to face each other in their respective divisions in a 3-game series. And then out of that 3 games, whoever emerges victors from that first round series, they meet up in the league championship round, which is also a best of 3 series. So best of luck to the Riverdogs. Hope they bring another Carolina League title. So that'll be the Dog Dynasty continues for another year. That'll be 4 straight league titles for the Charleston Riverdogs. On a more serious note, Hall of Famer Wade Boggs recently announced that he has prostate cancer, and he's currently undergoing treatment to make sure to eradicate that prostate cancer. So all prayers up to him. Best of luck. I hope you make a full recovery. He was always one of my favorite players as a kid for the Red Sox, and he also played for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Interestingly enough, him and Derek Jeter are the only 2 players in Major League history to get their 3,000th career hit on a home run. It's wild. And now I'm going to talk about my recent visit to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You know, for many years, PNC Park has been at the top of my sports bucket list. And I was like, you know what? I already went to Cincinnati, checked out their ballpark. Why not knock Pittsburgh off the list too? And oddly enough, shout out to Breeze Airways. That's the airline I use to fly to Cincinnati. They also do nonstop flights to Pittsburgh. So as soon as I saw that, I pulled the trigger on buying that ticket immediately. And so we fast forward to this past Saturday, leave the Charleston airport at about noon, and it's a nonstop flight. So I got into Pittsburgh little after about 1:20 that afternoon. And as soon as I touched down, I had the pleasure of reconnecting with my former high school classmate, Victoria Bennett, who is an incredible photographer. She actually gave me one of her photography prints in exchange for a picture that she wanted made as a print that she requested. And so we did a picture swap. That was real cool. You know, it's cool having art of your local friends hanging up in your house. And she picked me up from the airport, and we made our way down to downtown Pittsburgh. Oh my God, that's such a beautiful city. The pictures do not do it justice. Like when you're going through the Fort Pitt Tunnel, then as soon as you emerge from the tunnel, boom, there's the skyline and this big strikingly yellow bridge. It's a feast for the senses. And so we make our way downtown and we pull up to the Andy Warhol Museum, he's one of my favorite artists of all time. Like he's like top 2, top 3 for me. And I've always wanted to visit the museum. And so we did that. And that museum is super sensory overload in the best way possible. All of his works of art, talking about his history. He's from Pittsburgh, I'm talking like 7. The museum is literally 7 stories tall, and all of it is just all of his personal works, and just like his handwriting, like his journals, pictures he took. I mean, the archive is extensive. If you're in Pittsburgh, I highly recommend visiting the Andy Warhol Museum. Admission is $25, and that's a good way to spend. It's a good way to spend a couple hours in there, which is what we did. And we took some pics and stuff and had a good old time. And then we left the museum, and then we walked around the riverfront, which is beautiful. It's right on the Allegheny River, and we just talked and caught up on old times. I hadn't seen her literally in 26 years, so it was a treat to catch back up with her. Then we walked back to the museum parking lot, and we gave each other our pictures, and then we hugged, and we went our separate ways. Vicky, great to see you. Won't be the last time I come to Pittsburgh, that's for sure. And after she left, then I made my way to PNC Park, which is only about 2 or 3 blocks from the Warhol Museum. But I wanted to take this more scenic route. So if you don't know, Pittsburgh has 3 art style bridges. There's the Rachel Carson Bridge. There's the Roberto Clemente Bridge. That's the bridge that leads you to PNC Park. And then the Andy Warhol Bridge, which is naturally on the same road where the Andy Warhol Museum is. And they all run parallel to each other, going over the Allegheny River. So I make my way across the Warhol Bridge and walk a couple of blocks down to the Clemente Bridge. And the cool thing about the Clemente Bridge is on Pirates game days, they shut that bridge down. And it becomes a pedestrian-only bridge, which is super cool. I got to go take some pictures on the bridge. And I made my way across the river and walked into PNC Park. It was a huge gathering outside of the stadium before the gates opened. And you could smell the food grilling in the air. And they had a couple of live DJs and food trucks outside. And it was such a dope setup, and everybody was just super friendly. And as the gate waiting, I stood in line for the gates to open. And as I walked through, they check my bags, scan my ticket, and I make my way up. And I'm like, man, I'm inside of the castle. And then when you actually walk inside of PNC Park and get to the center, you get to the concourse, and then you look out and you just see that panoramic view of the Pittsburgh skyline and the Allegheny River and the Clemente Bridge as the backdrop. Pictures do not do it justice in the slightest. I implore you've got to at least once in your life, you got to make a visit to PNC Park, because that view is just absolutely stunning. And I mean stunning in all caps. And, just taking in the atmosphere, and went to go get then the next order of operations was going to get my concessions. So the first move I made was to the Permane Brothers stand. And for those that don't know, Permane Brothers is a staple. It's an institution in Pittsburgh with the style of sandwiches. It's like a Pittsburgh style of sandwiches where they actually put French fries in the bottom of their sandwich. So I got the capicola sandwich, which I enjoy. That particular cut of cold cut. It's a real spicy cold cut, and with the sandwich, it had the capicola with coleslaw, and then the fries at the bottom of the sandwich. That thing was bussin'. Only thing I would recommend, only thing I think that would have really made that sandwich just take it to another level, is if they added banana peppers to it. That would have been out of this world. And also at PNC Park, if you buy the souvenir size cup like this one, the refills are unlimited. So take advantage of that opportunity. And then after I went to Permane Brothers, I went to the next concession stand over, and they had popcorn. It's probably, as far as food and value wise, it's probably the best bang for your buck. There's just the jumbo box of popcorn. I mean, it's probably about this big, and it's maybe, I think it's like $6.40, and they load that sucker down. Then took my seat, finished my sandwich and my popcorn, and then I'll get into that a little bit later. The usher, oddly enough, the usher that was in my section looked at my shirt. My shirt said heavy. I have a shirt that says heavy on the Carolina. And she kept looking at my shirt, and then she approached me and she was like, Carolina. She's like, I like that shirt. She was like, is that North Carolina or South Carolina? I'm like, it's South Carolina. She's like, really? She's like, my daughter lives in Monk's Corner. I was like, I live in Monk's Corner. It's just, man, wherever you go, Carolina, you're going to find somebody from Carolina. I thought that was I was like, wow, small world. And we got to chit-chatting and stuff, and then the game took place. I got to say, the lady that sung the national anthem, and I had to go pee real bad too. She really took her sweet time singing. It literally took her damn near 5 minutes to finish singing the national anthem. She was like an opera style singer, and she was just real slow and deliberate with her singing method. And my bladder was not feeling that at all. But anyway, they played the Washington Nationals, which was cool because James Wood was one of my top prospects was one of my favorite prospects to follow this year. And he got called up about a month ago, or might have been about 2 months ago. So I was excited to see him, and then they recently called up their first round pick this year was Dylan Cruz from LSU, and James Wood. He had a pretty good game. I believe he had 2 hits. Dylan Cruz, he didn't get a hit, but he drew a walk, and I believe he scored a run. And I really wanted to see Pirates ace Paul Skeens take the mound, but it wasn't his day to start. So instead, they got Mitch Keller taking the mound, and he had a really strong outing. He threw 6 innings, gave up, I think, 2 runs, no walks, and he had 8 strikeouts. And he did his thing on the mound, which was he held it down up until it was time to bring out the bullpen reinforcements. And then specifically Aroldis Chapman, who, I mean, if you know how he operates at this point, he's going to throw to a 600 mile an hour fastball, but sometimes that fastball won't matter when he's just giving up runs, and which is exactly what he did. He only pitched 2/3 of an inning, and that fool gave up 4 runs, and the Pirates ended up losing 8-6, all because of him. But also another concession that I forgot to mention is a spot called Krabby's and Pete's, and they have this thing called crab fries, which is basically crinkle cut fries. It tasted like they sprinkled Old Bay seasoning on it, which I'm 100% okay with because I love Old Bay seasoning. And once they serve you the fries with the seasoning, and they also give you a cup of this melted white cheddar sauce. That thing is a beast. Man, that's some good eating at that PNC Park. The fries were a little pricey. I'll warn you, it was like $17 or $18 for those fries. But if you ask me if I would do it again, I would absolutely do it again. And another thing I failed to mention is I really played myself by not looking at the forecast because it got down to 49 degrees that night. And it was chilly as all get out. I don't want to say chilly as hell, but hell ain't really chilly. It's hell. But that wind coming off of that river, it just made it exponentially worse. But made my way out of the park, got my Uber, headed back to the hotel, and next morning got back up and made my way back downtown to the Heinz Museum. I wish I would have got pictures, but my battery was it was on its last leg, so I couldn't get any pictures. But the Heinz Museum, they have archived like old props of stuff off the set of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which was such. I'm talking, my inner child was doing backflips because that was one of my favorite shows growing up as a kid. And Mr. Rogers was born and raised in Pittsburgh, which made it even more special. And I recommend the Heinz Center as well, which is where you can find all the Mr. Rogers memorabilia. And then got an Uber, went back to the airport, and I flew back. Had a 5.5 hour layover in Norfolk, and then I gotta say that Norfolk airport is just small and is extremely dated. But oh well. And then after the layover, I finally was able to back in the plane and head back down to Charleston. Landed Sunday night about 11 o'clock. Then went back home. So yeah, that was my trip to PNC Park in a nutshell. Again, highly recommend that. If you're a baseball enthusiast, or if you're just a sports enthusiast, period, I cannot stress just going there at least once to visit PNC Park, because again, the pictures do not do the stadium backdrop any justice. You have to see it with your own two eyes. And that'll do it for this episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. I appreciate all the eyes and ears. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find it at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find videos for all the episodes of this podcast, as well as my other podcast, Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth, and other podcasts, Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny, and my upcoming podcast, which will drop next week, which is a podcast all about candles, entitled A Wicked Good Time. Emphasis on wick. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. And until next time, y'all be good. 3 strikes.
Oh, come on.